So it's been a bit of a while since I last did content for my own YouTube channel. The last video that I did was actually a live stream of me playing the Amiga 500 Plus with the Vampire and playing some classic Amiga games. Had some awesome interaction with people in the chat box, which was really cool. I really enjoyed that. Everything seemed to go really well. All the concerns that I had about the video being synced up, the audio sounding good, yeah, it sounded very good. I was very pleased. And for my own channel, really, for a while, that's it. I have, though, appeared on a hashtag GRS, a very special hashtag GRS, for a certain video game that is one of Gruss's favourites. I think it might even be his all-time favourite video game. It's certainly one of mine, on the Sega Mega Drive. 25 years of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Basically, Gruss contacted me and said, do you want to be involved with the stream? And I said, yeah, definitely, because I was planning to do some things as well, but didn't really get around to doing anything, as usual with me. And I basically took the place of the Google robot lady that's usually in Gruss's GRS live streams. And I read out the comments, I asked the main man himself some questions, and there was some banter going on, and it was really awesome, to the point that me and Gruss have discussed potentially in the future, if I do a live stream, getting him onto my channel to read some comments out and vice versa. It's really cool. I really enjoyed myself. Please go over to his channel if you've got sort of a couple of hours spare and you fancy watching Russ play through Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and also hear me basically read out comments and interactions. It was really awesome. So, in front of you in this video, you can see a Commodore 64 case. It looks like it's seen better days. There's no components inside it. This Commodore 64 I actually picked up a couple of years ago. I did a video all about it. It was faulty. It didn't work. With the help of Ian from Mutant Caterpillar Games, we got it up and running again, but I was never happy with the case. The reason is there's some scratches on the front here which you're not going to make out due to the lighting. And also, if I just try and turn this round, there's also a crack that runs up the side here, which you're probably not going to see. Along the back, usually on a Commodore 64, you've got clips that hold the casing in place, yet all of them are broken off, unfortunately, and snapped off. So the case at the back doesn't actually sit down and go back together properly, which is annoying. But the thing that really did it for me, and that really got to me in the end, was there's 3 screw mounting points at the front of the machine, and 2 of them are completely snapped off. Obviously the plastic had become so brittle over time, and they snapped off, and I had to use some quite long, ridiculous screws either side to actually keep this thing together. I was never happy with it. Cue another awesome YouTuber, Jan Beta. I've been watching him for quite a while now. He does retro video game repairs, mostly retro computers, I think, as opposed to video game repairs. Retro hi-fi stuff as well. I know that at the moment he's currently recreating his Commodore 64 setup from his childhood from 30 years ago, from 1987, with an Aldi Commodore 64, which I never even knew existed. So props to Jan Beta. On his video, he picked up a Commodore 64 where the case wasn't in particularly good shape and it had issues. And in the end, he decided to purchase a replacement case. And he linked us on that video to a shop based in Germany where Jan's from, called Pixel Wizard. And so I had a look on there, because this case, I wasn't happy with it, was never happy with it. And I decided, you know what, let's buy a case. The thing is with the case, as I'm about to show you, it is a Commodore 64C style case. It's not the original bread bin case, but there's still some bread bin charm, as you're going to see. So here is my Commodore 64, which was originally a bread bin, that's now inside a C case. And it's retained some of its bread bin charm for 2 reasons. We've still got the original chocolate brown coloured keyboard, which has come from that C64 that you've seen underneath. And the colour of the case is actually the original bread bin colour. And I just think this case is so well done. It looks so nice. It really does. There's 3 screw mounting points at the front. It's also clipped at the back and at the sides, which is really awesome. Not sure if you're seeing this very well. I've just knocked the camera up. Trying to get some focus for you guys so you can see. But that looks really awesome. I'll come on to this thing that's kind of hanging out the side so you can see what that is in a moment and talk about it. You see all the ports there on the back. The case looks fantastic. I'm really happy with it. So thank you to Jan Beta for his awesome video. The only thing is, of course, with the original C64 bread bin, the LED is different. It's round. In the 64C, it's actually rectangular. I managed to find a site selling C64C specific spares and got the correct red LED, the rectangular LED that sits in there, and it lights up and obviously looks awesome, which is absolutely fantastic. Now this thing here, I might actually unplug this and kind of bring it up close to the camera. This is as you can see, well, I'm not even I'm not even showing it to you correctly, but anyway, this is a C64 saver device, and you can see where it says on the left hand side 5V for 5 volts, and you've got good and bad with a red and green LED respectively. Now anybody that knows anything about the Commodore 64 will know that the original power supplies, you can see I've got the black wedge of cheese power supply here that was for my C64. You'll know that when those power supplies go bad, when they fail, what they do is they send an overvoltage into the system, and that kills some of the main chips stone dead. And some of these chips are getting harder and harder to find and harder to replace. So yeah, not really ideal. So a device like this sits in between the power supply and the C64, and when all is good, of course, you get that green LED to show you that all is good. Sorry about the lighting, guys. I know it's changing a lot. It's not very good so far, this video, is it? You get a green light when all's good, which at the moment, power supply is all good, so I'm now confident to actually use my C64. And if it does go bad, then you'll get a red LED, the power will be cut, so it won't go out the other end, and you won't be able to power on the system, thus you won't be causing damage to it, which is awesome. So if you've got a Commodore 64, I definitely recommend picking up one of these, or check out Jan Beta's video where he does some future-proofing of the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20, because yeah, there's some good ideas that he's done in there, including adding heat sinks to some of the chips, which Gadget UK also showed on his videos of the Commodore 64 repairs that he did. And I've done that, and I've also added the VIC-2, the cooling fan for the VIC-2, which basically resolves my graphical glitches issue. So yeah, that's the Commodore 64. You'll notice, lurking away in the background there, as I'm going to take you up, trying to use my tripod as best I can here, guys. There is a backwards compatible 60GB Sony PlayStation 3. Now there's a reason why that is sitting there, because recently the PS3's been hacked. Awesome, custom firmware, we're back on custom firmware, but not for all models. It only goes up to a certain point with the Slims, and then it stops from that point onwards. So if you are thinking about doing this, if you find out about the custom firmware and you're interested, make sure you've got a PS3 model that actually will work with it. There's plenty of information telling you what works and what doesn't. For those models at the moment that don't work, there's likely to be a HEN, which is a homebrew enabler, that will enable you to run homebrew software, thus things like emulators and whatnot, on your PS3, on that particular model or type of PS3 in the future. So initially, there was a web exploit that these really clever people discovered, and it was working on system software version 4.8.1, which up until recently was Sony's latest custom firmware. Sorry, not custom firmware, original firmware. And basically, Sony actually released an update. It was quite interesting, the timing, to 4.82. But interestingly, the exploit via the web browser still worked. And initially what we had was a way of dumping the IDPS, so the console's ID essentially, to a file on a USB stick that you had plugged into the second port if you've got one of the newer PS3s, not the original backwards compatible model that's got 4 USBs like mine has on the front there. And yeah, it dumped a file with your console ID essentially on it. And they said at that point in time that they were going to release a NAND/NOR flasher, which will enable us to install custom firmware. That was originally going to be scheduled for Q1 of 2018. It wasn't due to come for a little while at that stage. But for some reason, they brought it forward. I'm guessing they had a bigger breakthrough than they thought. Maybe things worked a lot quicker than they expected, and they actually brought it out. The process isn't too difficult, but you do need to make sure that you follow it if your console is capable of doing this. And then, yeah, you've got custom firmware. Now, for me, the custom firmware PS3 is the equivalent of having a modified Xbox. Certainly nowadays, and I actually think it's really, really cool and really easy and really convenient. I've got a nice 500GB laptop hard drive inside that PS3, and you can load it full of emulators, ROMs, if you like that kind of thing, which, you know, I've started using emulators and ROMs a bit more. Don't worry, it's not replacing the gaming setup, not at all. Don't think for 1 second that I'm going to dip out of real hardware. That's not the case. It's just cool sometimes to kick back with a wireless controller in my hand and play some classic games that way. You can also play PS3 games because you can rip those to the hard disk if you want to. You can also, in the case of my PS3, because it's the backwards compatible model, I can play PS2 games pretty easily by ripping them to the hard disk as well, which is super useful. And all models of all models of PlayStation 3 are capable of playing original PlayStation games. So again, you can rip those, or you can copy across some existing ISOs if you've got them and run them using Multiman, which is a cool bit of homebrew that you can get for the PS3. Now, here's a piece of advice. Here is a big fat mother warning. Do not sign into PSN on your PS3 once it's been custom firmwared. Don't do it. Okay, guys? If that's your main PSN account that you use with the PS4, maybe even the PS Vita as well, don't do it. Don't sign in using your custom firmware PS3. Just do not do it. Because my PSN account has been banned. My main PSN account, which was the DJ Dave Doc, has been banned. So I can't use it on the PS4, which is super annoying because I've got loads of online-only games like Gran Turismo Sport, and all the progress is online, and I can't access that because I'm banned from PSN. To be honest, I'm a complete idiot. I should have realised that there would be some kind of consequence and that I should never have signed into PSN on that PS3 with my account, because it was obvious that something like that would happen and I'd get banned. So yeah, guys, do not sign into PSN if you've got a custom firmware PS3. Just don't do it. Anyway, guys, hope this video's been just a little bit interesting for you to sort of catch up with me and see what I've been up to. Normally at this point in time as well, coming towards the end of the year, I would do a game room tour / setup tour, but at the moment, my TV, I've had nothing but problems with my Sony 4K TV, which it's gone back and forth whilst they've tried to fix it. And of course, when it's got there, it's been okay. When it's come back to me, it'll be okay maybe for 1 or 2 sittings, and then it will start playing up again. So it's gone back there. It's really started to really do my head in, to be quite honest with you. But there you go. We've got stuff here that works really, really well and that's 20, 30 odd years old. And yet a television that's a year old can cause me all kinds of problems. It's ridiculous. But there we go. So guys, thanks as ever for watching. I'll catch you again soon.